How Canada just got a land border with Denmark. For most of its history, Canada only had one land border, with the United States. But that changed with a very unusual and peaceful agreement over a tiny Arctic island called Hans Island. What is Hans Island? Hans Island is a small barren island in the Kennedy Channel, located between Canada's Ellesmere Island in Nunavut and Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. For nearly 50 years, Canada and Denmark disagreed over who owned the island. This disagreement was so gentle that it became known as the Whiskey War, or Liquor War, because both sides would leave a bottle of whiskey or schnapps and a flag when they visited the island to claim it. A peaceful resolution. On June 14, 2022, after decades of negotiations, Canada and the Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland, signed a historic agreement to finally settle the dispute. Under this agreement, the tiny Hans Island, about 1.2 sq km, was divided between Canada and Denmark along a natural fault line on the island. This division created an official land border between the two countries. It also finalized maritime boundaries in the surrounding Arctic waters, including a nearly 4,000 kilometer long boundary between Canada and the Kingdom of Denmark, thus Greenland. In short, by splitting Hans Island between them, Canada and Denmark now share a land border, a first for Canada beyond its border with the United States. Why this matters? Historic milestone. It is the first time Canada shares a land border with a country other than the United States. Peaceful diplomacy. The settlement is a rare example of a long-running border dispute ending without conflict, and even with friendly humor and tradition. Arctic cooperation. The agreement reflects cooperation between Arctic states in a region strategically important due to climate change, shipping routes, and natural resources. Even though the island is uninhabited and far from population centers, the story of Hans Island shows that borders can be resolved respectfully and peacefully. Fun fact. This quirky border story is sometimes called the Whiskey War because of the bottles of whiskey and schnapps left behind by Canadian and Danish officials over the years as a playful way of staking their claims. Summary. Why Canada now has a land border with Denmark. A long-standing dispute over tiny Hans Island in the Arctic. A peaceful agreement in 2022 dividing the island. Creation of an official land border between Canada and the Kingdom of Denmark through Greenland.